Egypt is God's paradise on earth. Whoever owns it does not go hungry, and whoever rules it does not lose its wealth, its people, and its area equal to an entire empire. So he decided to remove this fat shoulder from the hands of the Rum. Documentary Conquest Egypt. In the beginning, do not forget to like the clip and subscribe to the channel to help us publish more, God willing. In the 11th year AH, the Byzantine Empire was calm. It was a great empire ruling Anatolia, the entire Balkans, Italy, the Levant, Egypt, North Africa, and southern Spain. But this calm atmosphere was followed by a severe storm led by the Muslims. The Byzantine Empire was stabbed in the Levant. As a result of that stab, it lost the whole sham and nearly 300,000 Roman fighters.
After the matter settled for the Muslims in the Levant, I realized the necessity of conquering Egypt to secure the Levant. Most of the Romans who withdrew from the south of the Levant have fled to Egypt. Artaban handed over Jerusalem to Umar ibn al-Khattab and then withdrew his soldiers to Egypt. Therefore, the Levant must be secured from that side.
Egypt was feeding the entire Byzantine army. It was sending daily loads of grain, wheat and barley to the Byzantines, sufficient to feed the entire territory of the Byzantine Empire. One source mentioned that Egypt used to send wheat from which 80,000 loaves were made daily.
Therefore, the Muslim conquest of Egypt will be a severe stab in the side of the Byzantines. Likewise, if the land of Canaan was conquered, the Byzantine state would not be able to reach its possessions in North Africa and southern Spain by sea. And then those countries will turn against the Byzantine Empire and take control. The Byzantine Empire would shrink to ruling some lands in Anatolia, the Balkans, and southern Italy. What I was planning was not just a stabbing of the Romans in their loin, but the end of centuries of domination of the great empire. What I predicted was correct. As soon as God completed the conquest of Egypt, North Africa became independent under the leadership of a Roman commander named George Rios.
He would prefer to wait until the situation in the Levant is completely stable. Most of the people of Levant surrendered to the Muslims and then moved to Egypt. Most likely he would not agree to the conquest of Egypt. He was aware that Al-Faruq Umar was very patient and did not throw the Muslims into misfortune. But Amr ibn al-As needed to convince the Caliph.
I told him that I wanted to conquer Egypt, to secure the southern line of the Levant, and also to completely destroy the Byzantine Empire. And when I learned that Omar ibn al-Khattab had come to Al-Jabiyah to check on the conditions of the people of Levant himself after the plague of Emmaus, I attended to meet with Farouk.
I cannot provide you. I will not send you to a land between you and me as a sea. He said it separated Amr. But Farouk rejected the proposal.
They are waiting for us to free them from the shackles of the Byzantines. It has been conveyed to the ears of the Caliph of the Muslims. They force them to a doctrine they do not accept. The people of Egypt abhor the Roma. It is the richest land and the most incapable of fighting and war. I said to him, if you conquered it, it would be a strength for the Muslims and help for them.
This speech was met with the admiration of Omar ibn al-Khattab.
Then I continued and said, I had a great trade in Egypt before, and that I know its people, its roads, its reefs, and its entrances well.
Omar bin al-Khattab was convinced and authorized him to conquer Egypt.
Amr ibn al-As moved with 4,000 fighters. He crossed the Egyptian border until he reached Rafah. Then he went to Al-Arish, but he found it empty of Byzantine forces. Al-Arish surrendered to him without a fight. Some historians have mentioned a story, but we did not find an origin for it. Its meaning is that Omar bin al-Khattab, he had said to Amr ibn al-As, before he set out to conquer Egypt, that if you receive a message from me before you reach El-Arish, retreat from opening and do not enter it. But if my letter reached you and you entered Al-Arish, then apply with God's blessing and conquer Egypt. During the entry of Amr ibn al-As to Al-Arish, a messenger from Al-Faruq came to him. Amr ibn al-As did not receive him until he crossed Al-Arish to ensure the completion of the conquest of Egypt. Of course, this statement is not true at all, because a superpower has sovereignty over the Arabian Peninsula, the Levant, Iraq, southern Anatolia, Ahwaz, and eastern Iran. You don't rule that way. Also, a man like Al-Faruq would not have been deceived by what Amr did. This story is closer to folk tales than to the truth, because the truth is that Al-Faruq had studied the military plan with Amr ibn al-As, and he had given him permission to conquer. He knew the progress path and the cities that would be unlocked in detail. Therefore, this story must be refuted to show the truth. After the Egyptians heard of the justice of Amr ibn al-As and the Muslims, they welcomed them with the greatest welcome. So Amr advanced from Al-Arish until he reached the fortress of Al-Fama. This is the first real fortress that Amr ibn al-As met. When the news came to Al-Muqawqis, the ruler of Egypt, of the incursion of the Muslim forces into Egypt as far as Al-Fama fort, he decided not to provide the fort with troops, and he left it as a bait for the Muslims so that he could be distracted from the fort. And he is well entrenched in the most powerful and fortified fortress of Babylon.
Fort Babylon was a great fortress. It has fetters, provisions, and wheat sufficient for thousands of troops for many months.
As Al-Muqawqis expected, Amr ibn al-As besieged the fortress of Al-Fama for 2 months until its people were reassured, and they handed over tribute to Amr. They were tired of the Byzantines, and they wanted just rulers like the Muslims. The Egyptians helped Amr ibn al-As in Arish and in the fortress of Al-Fama and in every village Amr entered. This is because of the intense hatred that the Egyptians held for the Byzantines. They used to skin their backs with taxes, take the sustenance of their children, and leave them poor, despite the outrageous wealth of their state. Even religion, the Byzantines did not leave them a choice in it. They forced them to the Byzantine doctrine, which was opposed by the general Egyptians. And after Amr opened Al-Fama, he advanced until he reached Bilbais, and it was the daughter of Muqawqis, Armanusa. Armanusa immediately sent a message to her father asking for help and asking him for strength to fight the Muslims. The Muqawqis and his leaders met to take a decision in this critical situation. They agreed to send a force to Armanusa to save her. But Muqawqis was opposed to this matter because he saw that they had no right to fight Muslims. They must be appeased. But the military ruler, Artaban of Egypt, he had fought the Muslims in our armies before and faced the most severe defeat. He was determined to fight. The rest of the leaders agreed to fight the Muslims.
When the leaders agreed to send a force to fight the Muslims, I reluctantly agreed to this opinion.
The Roman forces went to break the siege on the fortress of Bilbais, and the Muslims met with them in fierce fighting. But as Muqawqis expected, the army was defeated by Amr ibn al-As. The Muslims won a landslide victory. About 1,000 fighters were killed from that army. The rest managed to escape. And God opened the city of Bilbais at the hands of Amr ibn al-As. At that time, Amr ibn al-As ordered to send Armanusa with her money, maidservants, and all her entourage to her father, honored in the protection of a group of Muslims led by Qais bin Sa'd bin Ubadah, senior Muslims in the hearts of the Egyptians. And the Muqawqis realized the greatness of these men.
When Qais ibn Sa'd came to me, he offered Islam. He told me that the conquest of Egypt would inevitably take place because the messenger of God, peace and blessings be upon him, preached this matter to us. I promised him to present the matter to my people.
Then Amr ibn al-As moved to Dinayn. It was a fortified city with thousands of troops. It was the port on the Nile. And by opening it, those ships that dock will take advantage of it and cross the river to the most important fortress in Egypt, Babylon Fortress. Muslims clashed with the Roman forces in Dinayn. It was a hard-fought battle. After hours of fierce fighting, thousands of Romans were killed and wounded, but rose from the Muslims hundreds of martyrs. The losses were heavy in the forces of Amr ibn al-As and too great to be compensated. He entered Egypt with only 4,000 fighters. He immediately sent to Umar ibn al-Khattab asking him for supplies. He explained to him the severity of the situation. If the Muqawqis sent an army from the fortress of Babylon, in which he was encamped, to fight the Muslims in there would be a massacre among the Muslims.
Seek help from God and stress your soldiers. And I have sent you 4,000 fighters. For every 1,000 of them is a leader with 1,000 men. These leaders were Al-Zubair ibn al-Awam, the cousin of the messenger of God. May God bless him and grant him peace. and the disciples of the Prophet, may God bless him and grant him peace, and Al-Miqdad bin al-Aswad, and Ubadah ibn al-Samit, and Muslim bin Mukhaled. They were 4 knights who were aware of the armies.
Amr ibn al-As implemented the advice of Umar ibn al-Khattab. So he decided to attack some of the less fortified regions in order to have an easy victory over his soldiers. This strengthened their resolve and gave them confidence. He left half of his forces besieging the city of Dinayn. Then he set off with the other half to attack Ain Shams. The fighting at Ain Shams was bitter. Muslims reached the edge of the abyss. Hearts reached throats. But Nasrallah was close. Supplies have arrived from Medina. And Amr put to open Ain Shams. It is waiting for the Romans to go out to meet him. And the Romans swallowed the bait. The Roman armies went out to meet Amr ibn al-As in the plain opposite the city of Ain Shams. Amr ibn al-As attacked them with his forces. It was a terrible clash. The Romans retreated towards the Mokattam mountain. The Romans were surprised when the arrows collapsed on them like rain from the top of the mountain. They realized that Amr ibn al-As had prepared an ambush for them and that he had pushed them towards the Mokattam mountain. Their resolve collapsed and their ranks began to crumble. After the attack on them from the front and from the side of the mountain, they had no way out but to flee to the city of Dinayn. But a surprise awaited them there. Amr ibn al-As put a group of Muslims on the road leading to the city of Dinayn. They became besieged on 3 sides, and the Muslims used the sword to displace and abuse them. The Romans realized late that Amr ibn al-As had prepared an elaborate ambush for them, but it was too late, and annihilate the Roman army from the end, and the city of Ain Shams became without any garrison. After the Roman army was slaughtered in the plain of Ain Shams, the city fell, thanks to God, in the hands of the Muslims. Then the Muslims tightened the siege on Dinayn until God opened it up to them as well. After that, Amr ibn al-As, may God be pleased with him, went to conquer the Fayoum region. The commander of the Fayoum garrison was called Yuhanna. When he learned that the Muslims were marching towards him, he placed a force on the road leading to Fayoum to prevent the Muslims from advancing. But Muslims do not fail them anything. They gathered around this force through the desert until they reached the city of Bansar, so they stormed it and eliminated the Roman garrison there. Then the Muslims turned to fight Commander John in the city of Abwed. The Muslims besieged it and completely destroyed its garrison. And as soon as the city of Abwed was conquered, the ruler of Fayoum and the commander of his military garrison, John, fled to Fort Babylon. And when Amr learned of the escape of the leader with their forces from Fayoum, he invaded the entire Fayoum region. So God opened it to him. Amr entered it amidst great cheers from the Egyptians. After that, Amr ibn al-As sent Rabi bin Habish at the head of a squad of knights to complete the entire conquest of Upper Egypt. Amr ibn al-As returned with his army to the north. Then he rested his army in Ain Shams and prepared plans. Then he went to the most important city on the Nile, the city of exile, and its fort, Babylon. The second largest and most impregnable fortress in Egypt after the fort of Alexandria. And after the great victory in the Battle of Ain Shams, Amr ibn al-As was able to directly supervise Babylon from its northern and eastern sides. And Amr was aware of the greatness of what was coming to it. He knew it was going to be an intense battle. He was fully prepared for it after relying on God. He was aware that with the fall of the fortress of Babylon, Egypt would fall completely. There is nothing left for him but Alexandria, which was the capital of Egypt at the time, and prevent a city on the continent of Africa at this time. And when the Muslims arrived at the fortress of Babylon, they were stunned by the enormity of its castle. Its walls were 60 feet high. It is surrounded by water moats. Amr ibn al-As realized that it would be a long battle, because the fort overlooks the Nile. Thus, it will be difficult to clamp down on them. Skirmishes began between Muslims and Romans, which lasted a whole month. Then the Egyptians helped the Muslims in their siege and guided them on the shortest way into the fortress of Babylon. So the Muqawqis understood that his fortress would inevitably fall, and he decided to make peace with Amr ibn al-As and ask for reconciliation.
Give us a month to discuss with each other.
Amr said, "Rather, I have 3 for you, and in the 4th you have become attacked like you have not seen." Indeed, he gave them 3 days, but they did not answer him with anything. Amr ordered a massive attack on the fortress of Babylon. The Muslims attacked the walls of the fort and caused a great massacre in the garrison of the walls. It was a severe attack that killed hundreds of Roman soldiers. After this heavy defeat on the walls of the fortress, the leaders became ready to accept reconciliation. But orders came from Heraclius from Constantinople by not allowing the Romans to reconcile with the Muslims. He commanded them to fight to the last man. When the Muslims learned about it, they knew that the fortress of Babylon would not be opened except by the sword. Al-Zubayr bin al-Awwam advanced and drew his sword. Then he set off towards the fort alone, then climbed up. And as soon as he climbed it, he shouted, "God is great, God is great." The Romans thought that the Muslims had stormed the fort, and they began to flee away from the walls. Al-Zubayr came down and opened the door of the fort to the Muslims. They poured like a torrent into the fort. So he opened the fortress of Babylon, and the Muqawqis and the Romans fled to Alexandria, which became the last stronghold of the Romans in Egypt. And when Amr ibn al-As was sent to al-Faruq, giving him good tidings of opening the fortress of Babylon, and he went to the capital, Alexandria, to besiege it, he told him that he had captured some of the captives from inside the fortress of Babylon. Umar ibn al-Khattab ordered him to release the captives immediately because their fight was with the Romans, not the Egyptians. The Egyptians helped Amr ibn al-As, and many of them converted to Islam and joined the Muslim army. Amr ibn al-As released them immediately, then advanced towards the city of Alexandria until he reached the fortress of Carrion. It was a few kilometers away from Alexandria. It has a strong garrison led by Tudor, the commander of the Byzantine forces in Egypt.
He clashed with them in fierce fighting. The fighting continued for 11 days, during which victory was an ally of the Muslims.
And he prayed Amr bin al-As the prayer of fear and prayed to God to grant him victory over his enemies. And after he finished his prayers, God opened that fortress for him. Theodore and the remnants of his soldiers fled to Alexandria.
The Muslims followed them to Medina, and as soon as the Islamic army reached the fort, they were stunned by the horror of its enormity. They did not see in their lives a fortress similar to the fortress of Alexandria.
The news of the death of the Roman emperor reached the ears of Muslims, and whoever succeeded him on the throne wanted to defend Alexandria to the last man. He sent a huge army to defend the fortress of Alexandria. It became the garrison of Alexandria, including 50,000 fighters.
But Amr ibn al-As did not care about it. He tightened the siege on the city of Alexandria, then sent some military teams to open the areas that are still outside Muslim rule in the Delta. God opened it to the Muslims. This was a bad omen for the Byzantines in Alexandria.
By opening the Delta, all supplies were cut off from them. Because misfortunes do not come singly, it has been reported to them that the sons of Heraclius are fighting each other for the throne, and that a great civil war is going on in Constantinople. Supplies stopped coming from Constantinople by sea. They realized that they were alone in this grinding fortress.
From the beginning of this event, the sources differ. Some of them mentioned that Alexandria had conquered them, after the Muslims stormed it and destroyed its diet. But Coptic sources and many Arab sources mentioned that Alexandria had been conquered by peace. After the Emperor Constantine, the grandson of Heraclius, gave orders to the Muqawqis to negotiate peace with the Muslims, to hand over the city and to protect their lives and money.
Indeed, the Muqawqis handed it over to Amr ibn al-As on the condition that the people would be safe on their lives, their crosses and their money, and to leave the Byzantines 11 months in order to withdraw from it and not return to it again. This was in Dhul-Qa'dah in the 20th Hijri, and the matter was settled by the grace of God for the Muslims. Amr ibn al-As restored Benjamin, Pope of the Christians, who was fleeing in the desert from the persecution of the Byzantines, to his position as Pope of the Christians in Alexandria.
He gave them the freedom to practice their beliefs. Pope Benjamin became one of the biggest supporters of Islamic rule in Egypt, but this aroused the envy of others. One of the bishops was coveting this chair. He fled to the Romans in Constantinople and told them that the Copts in Egypt do not like Muslims and are ready to revolt if supported. But this was all sheer nonsense and slander. He used to lie to them to supply him with armies so he could reach the papal position.
Indeed, the Romans provided him with an army and sent him to Egypt, trying to restore it with the help of the Coptic revolution. Then Amr ibn al-As reached the news of the arrival of an army to Egypt from the direction of Alexandria, carried on ships. Immediately, Amr moved to the port to meet them, and he got into a fierce fight with them. God enabled them to defeat the invaders, displacing them completely. Their army was destroyed, and this despicable bishop was captured. When he was carried bound to Amr ibn al-As, those around him advised him to kill the bishop as punishment for what he did.
But Amr ibn al-As dressed him in a bracelet and a crown, and clothed him with a purple robe, to the astonishment of those present. Then he pointed his hand to the bishop, saying, "Go and bring another army."
This indicates the extent of the military consolidation of Amr ibn al-As over Egypt and the support that the Egyptians provided to the Muslims. Even most of the army that opened the Libyan city of Cyrenaica was composed of newly converted Egyptians. Amr ibn al-As sent a detachment of cavalry led by his cousin Ibn Nafi al-Fihri, so he conquered the city of Zuwayla and Tripoli with reconciliation. As soon as Uqba reached the city of Zuwayla, the people of Libya attacked the Romans to fight them. They supported the Muslims and revolted against the Byzantines. The hatred was intense for the Romans in all countries. Likewise, Amr ibn al-As arrived with his army of Egyptians to the city of Cyrenaica to conquer it. And when the inhabitants of Cyrenaica saw Amr ibn al-As and the Muslims, they welcomed them with the greatest welcome. They rebelled against the Romans and expelled them from the city. They reconciled Amr ibn al-As with an annual tribute of 13,000 dinars of gold. The conquest of Cyrenaica, Tripolitania, Zuwayla, and the entire region of Fezzan was an easy conquest, thanks to God alone, and because of the local population's love for Muslim justice. They were not flayed with taxes like the Byzantines, and they did not treat them with cruelty or take them as slaves as the Romans did. Amr bin al-As was merciful to the servants. Even some of the companions criticized Amr for his extreme compassion towards the Egyptians. And when Omar bin al-Khattab died, Othman bin Affan assumed the caliphate. Abdullah bin Sa'ad bin Abi al-Sara was put in charge of Egypt. He was Uthman's brother by breastfeeding, so Abdullah doubled the tribute to the Egyptians and increased taxes, causing outrage among them.
One of Othman bin Affan's aides said to Amr bin al-As, while they were in the council of Othman bin Affan mockingly, "Here Egypt came with its milk, Amr."
Amr bin al-As replied to him and said, "Yes, she brought her milk." But after her udder dried up and her young died. This was a warning from Amr that Egypt was on the verge of revolution, and this is what actually happened. Some Copts of Egypt revolted against the governor and refused to pay the tribute, and this revolution did not calm down until the arrival of Amr ibn al-As. He was appointed governor of Egypt again during the era of Muawiyah ibn Abi Sufyan. So God gave him victory and extinguished the fire of the revolution by striking hard on all the outlaws and removing excess taxes from the shoulders of Egyptians. The situation returned to normal. Security returned again. Amr ibn al-As was one of the most brilliant military politicians in all Islamic history. May God have mercy on the Arabs, the shrewdest of the Muslims. May God be pleased with the conqueror of Egypt, Amr ibn al-As, and on all conquerors with him and after him. You can imagine how tired the Muslim conquerors were to do.